That's what's important in this world, getting a good signal.
And if this interview comes later than the origin part, you can always put it out.
We'll work on it together how much you want. We'll put together a good series called, well, right now it's called sort of Bluegrass in the Weeds with Aric Leavitt. But Aric may decide to change that to whatever he wants to in the end. And this is Aric Leavitt who's going to talk about.
I think you were calling it Legacy, Licks, and Lore with Aric.
That was another one too. Yeah, so many titles possible for
That's all right.
Study of bluegrass. So, what do you want to talk about on this segment, Aric Leavitt?
Well, a number of people ask me. First off, a number of people ask me, what is actually bluegrass? And usually my very first-hand offhand answer is bluegrass is more country than country. That's my quick answer. That's an easy answer, and it's a very true statement. But actually, what is bluegrass? It's also, bluegrass is a polite synonym for hillbilly. It's music of the hills and the backwoods, and as such, bluegrass is very country. It's also folk. Is it Western? Is it country and Western? Well, there's a fine line. There's a fine line between all these classifications of music. Bluegrass, country, folk music, Western, cowboy music, hillbilly music, old-timey. What's old-timey? Old-timey or old-time is traditional mountain music, which is what bluegrass music is. Bluegrass is mountain music. The style of bluegrass, as distinguished from old-timey mountain music or more traditional mountain music, there's a bit of a difference. Now, which came first? Old-timey preceded bluegrass. Old-timey is mountain music in probably its most traditional form. Usually started off with just a banjo and a fiddle and nothing else. And the people would gather around and dance to the music. A lot of it's rooted in the church hymns that were sung back there in the hills. A lot of the harmony arrangements emanate from the hymns and the gospel music of the southern mountains. But to answer the question, what is the actual distinction between bluegrass and country? Well, you could almost say that you could almost do the same thing with classical music versus Baroque music or romantic music. What are all these things? What's the distinction there? Well, that's another thing that I could discuss at length too, but we're not going to do that on this interview. But there's a similar area up for discussion there. I could sum it up real quickly. Baroque and romantic are forms of classical music. They are. It's all classical music. Well, bluegrass is country, very country music. If we go back to the early 1900s, I could tell you this, that the first country song to ever sell 1 million was by a pop country singer named Vernon Dalhart, and the song was called Prisoner's Song. It was a 1 million seller. That was in 1919. And from there we had people like Jimmy Rogers, the Singing Brakeman, in the 30s. The Carter family singing backwoods music on their back porch. The Carter family, for the most part, defined country music. And their style, just as an example, as opposed to my style, A.P. Carter, and then Mother Maybelle, as she was known, the style they used in playing country music was Very distinctive. Very distinctive. A.P. Carter developed some kind of style that did not focus on a lot of open strings. Everything he did was a fretted note. He would play that F chord up in G, and you heard that very unique Carter family sound where he was always, his fingers were always on the frets. There were hardly ever any open strings, like in most American country music. You got, like on the banjo here, you have an open G. If I were playing a guitar, I would be playing a G chord, and there'd be a lot of open strings in there. Well, A.P. Carter would do it in the same key, but he would do it with an F chord 2 steps up, and it created a very distinctive sound that you have to hear it. I can't put it in words. It's just unique.
Can you banjo play it?
Sort of.
It's a little guitar.
Just to give you an example, an F chord played in G would be here. This is an F, and here I'm in G using an F position. Rather than an open G, I'm playing an F, a chorded F in the G position. It's a little different sound than, and from there, you know, it gets academic. Well, what is the difference between country and Western? It used to be called, if you go back to the heyday of country music, was really the 50s. It was called country Western, country and Western. It was blended together. You had people like Kitty Wells singing this gorgeous harmony. What a sweet sound. Rose Maddox and the Maddox Brothers. You had Webb Pierce. Hank Williams, of course. Well, Hank Williams was
Are you talking Western? These people played Western, or did they play country?
It was really country, but they called it country and Western because they dress up in cowboy outfits, and it was cowboyish.
So is Western a distinct music form besides country, or are they both really the same thing?
There's such a fine line between them, but how do we say that? Before the 50s, if you go back to the war years, it was simply called a hillbilly. Country was simply called a hillbilly, or it was called country. Or if it was more Western, it was just called Western. Sometimes even just called cowboy music. Now there is a distinction right there. You got the Sons of the Purple Sage. Sons of the Pioneers. There was a group called the Sons of the Purple Sage. They were a cowboy group. They used an accordion. They used a guitar, a lap steel, and an accordion. And it was all about cowboy music. It sounded more cowboy than anything else. Take me back to my boots and saddle, when my blue moon turns to gold again. Red River Valley, Wabash Cannonball. Oh,
that's all Western. That's all
well,
Western.
It was really cowboy music.
Right, but they called it Western then.
They called it. They were really called. They were. I had that record. My little brother and I had that record. It was my brother's record. I loved it so much that I basically claimed it as my own, and I loved the record. I loved it.
Which one? What's the name of the record?
It was the Sons of the Purple Sage, and it was cowboy music. It was just cowboy music.
So anything sort of west of the Mississippi is cowboy music, by and large, and east in the Appalachians and up around.
You might generalize it that way.
The eastern hills, they'd be more hillbilly.
You might generalize it that way. I don't like to do that too much. The Sons of the Pioneers were very, very Western. Cool water, tumbling tumbleweeds. They were about as Western as you can get. It was cowboy too, but it was largely Western. Well, the music the styles basically merged together, and in the 50s and 60s, it was pretty much considered country and Western.
That's when it blended, huh?
George Jones, Buck Owens, Johnny Cash, You almost could say that some of Johnny Cash's music evolved into outlaw music. Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard, he was a jailbird. Well, he was let go.
He paid his debt. He paid his debt.
Yeah, and he sung about paying his debt. A lot of his songs, most of his songs were prison songs. Well, not all of them, but many of them were prison songs. Beautiful songs. I jammed with him. I had the distinction of jamming with him for 45 minutes one Sunday, late Sunday morning.
That's a privilege.
Never forget it. It was 1967. I was 18 years old. And very nice guy, by the way.
Great story.
The music, country and western, eventually they dropped western and it became basically country.
All right, with that, I think we're kind of out of time.
Oh, okay.
On this segment, but we'll pick it up again.
This will take another
week, anybody
segment.
listening to this live.
This takes another second.
Yeah, look at it next. We'll pick this up next week, and we hope you enjoy. We're going to be doing this week after week. We're going to be doing this for quite some time. We're going to put together a great compilation.
In the long
Americana
run,
history.
it doesn't matter what you call it. It's what you like and it's what you enjoy.